Dreams of championships and echoes of the past, amplified by its glorious history. It also renews old and bitter clashes like the bright red of the Wolfpack and Carolina blue. It's great to be back. ESPN's college basketball is presented by Alltel Wireless from the Dean Smith Center in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It is back to ACC basketball. NC State against number 1, North Carolina. Good evening, everybody. Mike Patrick, Len Elmore. It's great to have you with us for NC State. What a way to start the conference season. You're playing an arch rival on their court. They're undefeated. They're the number 1 team in the country. They average 92 points a game. What else can you dump on the Wolfpack?
Well, you add the fact that Carolina is among the leaders in every offensive category in the ACC. They average 99 points on this floor, shoot over 50%. Now, State beat them last year in Raleigh by controlling tempo and making shots, but inexperience at point guard might hurt the Wolfpack. But then again, this looks like a mismatch on paper. This is a Tobacco Road rivalry, and we don't play it on paper. We play it on the hardwood. Let's see what happens.
How about your star watch, Len?
Well, J.J. Hickson for North Carolina State, top 10 in scoring, rebounding, and field goal percentage in the ACC. Good-looking freshman. And Tyler Hansbrough, Player of the Year front runner, hasn't disappointed. He's the best player on the nation's best team.
Take a look at the starting lineups. First for North Carolina State in the backcourt. Good news for them. Courtney Fells, who hurt his ankle on Wednesday, is back in the starting lineup with Javier Gonzalez. A lot more on him later. Grant, the star freshman, Hickson, and Costner up front. For the Heels of North Carolina, undefeated, the 3 guards, Ellington, great shooter, Lawson and Ginyard, Thompson and Hansbrough up front. The Heels 16-0, 1-0 after defeating Clemson in the opening game of the conference season. This place is jumping. Almost 22,000 people. Grant with a save, but stepped on the sideline. And Sidney Lowe breaks out the red jacket for the first time this year. It became famous last year when he swore he wasn't going to take it off till they lost. They got all the way to the ACC tournament finals.
NC State opens up in man-to-man. They're looking to try to control tempo, trying not to let Carolina get away from them.
Ginyard, a lot of time in the lane, had it knocked away, got stuck in there and paid for it. Gonzalez on the run to Fells. Pull-up jumper, got it. And that's going to be a key for North Carolina State. They have shot the ball brutally badly this year, especially from the outside. They're going to have to make some of those, or North Carolina can just pack in its defense. Ellington with a runner. Oh, what a great game he had against Clemson, a career-high 36 points, including the game winner. He is as good a shooter as there is in college basketball.
And that's why I call him probably the most prolific perimeter scorer in the nation today, considering the pressures that he undergoes playing with this team to some extent. And when Tyler Hansbrough wasn't on and he wasn't in Clemson, he is definitely a go-to guy.
Hickson makes the basket and draws the foul. This kid is a phenom as a freshman.
Well, the thing that helps is Tyler Hansbrough slips. You see him out near the free throw line. And Hickson, as long as he's not getting doubled and tripled, if you're going to go one-on-one with him, you're in for a long afternoon.
The thing about the ACC is people seem to be loath to go zone defense because the preferred defense is man-to-man. The problem with playing against North Carolina State is people have packed a zone in around Hickson and dared other people to beat them, and they haven't been very successful at it.
Well, Carolina's going to play what they play best, which is man-to-man.
Ellington double team, jump ball situation, it goes to the Heels. Roy Williams coaching hurt today with 5 stitches in the top of his head. He tripped in his office and slammed into the door and had to get 5 stitches He said he put a lot of pressure on the team physician. It was bleeding like crazy. He says, practice starts at 3, and I will be there.
It's like he was showing off a battle scar right there. 5 stitches turns into 35 in about 10 years.
Hansbrough backing in on Hickson, who is not known for his defense. And Hansbrough returns the favor, drawing the first personal on J.J. Hickson. One of the interesting things about these teams is both go to the free throw line almost constantly, and they're both very good free throw shooting teams.
And they're both obviously good at what they do best, North Carolina State, and controlling tempo and playing terrific defense. And Carolina, obviously, I told you at the beginning of the telecast, averaging 99 points a game on this floor. Overall, averaging about 92 per game. Something's going to give. State really desperate to try to control the tempo. They don't want to play past the 70s with Carolina.
Javi Gonzalez bringing the ball up. This is a great matchup. He and Lawson. Gonzalez has a negative turnover ratio as a point guard. That's something you can't live with. Fells knocked away by Ellington. They want Ellington to play tougher defense. In fact, overall, they want to play tougher defense.
Well, you see against the Carolina man-to-man, rather than put a lot of pressure on Gonzalez, you watch the way State runs their offense. They're using their high post guys as kind of conduits. They want to limit the amount of times that Gonzalez needs to dribble the ball, but right there he gets an opening, wide open, and misses the layup.
Boy, he took it. He made a great move to get inside. Lawson trying to return the favor at the other end, and they go inside to Deon Thompson, who's back after a family illness cost him a couple of games, went home to California.
Well, NC State wants to limit their turnovers, but that missed layup was about as good as a turnover. Missed shot led to a fast break situation.
Costner blows by Thompson, puts it over the left hand, no, and Hansbrough with a rebound. People have been backing off Lawson, daring him to shoot. He hasn't been that successful. Hansbrough, offensive rebound, missed the shot. On those short follows, he doesn't look like he balances the ball very well in his hand, but it belies the percentage because he makes most of them.
Yeah, what he loves to do, Tyler Hansbrough, is to get you on his left shoulder and then use that right hand just about every angle he can. Get squared up and hits those shorties.
My apologies, I said that Thompson had the family illness. It was Stevenson. But he is back and will be one of the first reserves off the Carolina bench. Bad pass. NC State still has it. They don't call traveling anymore unless you try to get up. You can move around on the floor.
Well, mistake again by the freshman. Possession arrow points in NC State's favor. He was about to get tied up. And instead, he tried to make a difficult pass. Go ahead and get tied up. It's your ball anyway. You got to know those things when you're out on the floor.
Hansbrough. Out of bounds to State.
Well, the mistake didn't hurt NC State. But that just shows you the travails of a point guard. You got to be heady enough to understand a lot of things besides what's just going on between those white lines.
That's a lot to remember, partner. You got to check that possession arrow every time down.
You ought to know. They had it in my day. I guess I would have relied on my point guard to do it as well.
Yes, you had a good one. John Lucas wasn't half bad. Here's Gonzalez, kicks it outside. Grant in and out on the three. They're only shooting 30% from three-point range. That's 11 out of 12.
And you see Carolina willing to give it to him.
Ginyard trying to keep it alive. Outside, retrieved by Lawson. Great battle by these teams on the boards. Runner no. Hansbrough partially blocked. And a foul. It's going to be on Costner. It is not for the faint of heart inside today, is it?
Nothing easy. Again, a lot of banging, a lot of trying to jockey for position. Hansbrough having trouble with that little one-hand runner. He was fouled on the floor rather than in the act of shooting. So Carolina's going to inbound the ball underneath. But both of these teams, as we mentioned, on paper, it looked like a mismatch. You look at the numbers there. NC State only a +2 in rebound margin. Carolina +12. But NC State rebounding like they're one of the best in the country when they're playing Carolina. This is a rivalry.
Yes, it is. And so far, the tempo has favored the visiting Wolfpack. Ginyard now guarded by Horner is into the game for the first time, number 31. And Stevenson, number 32, is in for the first time for Carolina. And there is Thomas, who is in at the point guard, dribbles it off his foot and almost lost it. Thomas into the lane, dumps it off. Hansbrough got it. Scored over McCauley. 3 points for Hansbrough.
And it's almost as though Tyler Hansbrough needs contact to be able to score.
Well, he invites it as much as anything else. And McCauley, whose numbers are down because he's not getting the minutes he had last year. I love to watch this kid play. He is just 100% intensity.
And he's solid, too. He's fundamentally sound inside, hustles on the defensive end. And he's big enough to give Tyler Hansbrough all he wants.
Great backdoor pass by Thomas. That was a beauty.
Well, a lot of people have been down on Quentin Thomas. Say he turns the ball over too much and, doesn't run the offense the way he needs to. But since Bobby Fraser has gone down, Thomas has done a nice job with the minutes he's been given.
What a beautiful step through by McCauley. He just kept his head, didn't rush it, and he has 4 quick points off the bench. Hansbrough takes him outside. This is Ginyard. Working against Grant. Hansbrough got away and then is clobbered. Outstanding passing early in this ball game by both clubs. NC State and Carolina tied at 9.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Alltel Wireless. Get My Circle exclusively from Alltel. And in part by Papa John's. Order by text message or online at papajohns.com.
This game is available on ESPN and stunning ESPN HD, presented by Olivia. Glad you could join us for what has been a terrific game so far. Carolina and NC State. Lenny, take us back to that last foul. It was a hard foul, certainly.
Well, it was a hard foul, but a clean one. You see McCauley with the gamble, and Tyler Hansbrough has to know that he's not going to get anything easy. Conference game, conference rivalry. These guys know each other so well, and no one, especially Tyler Hansbrough, can complain about that hard but clean foul. And I know Tyler probably likes to play that way.
Well, he's on top of the ACC in scoring and rebounding. I think he's on top of the NCAA in lost contacts.
Going back to the point, Quentin Thomas, he had a sprained ankle when Bobby Fraser went down, so he's had increased time just over the last 2 games, about 10 minutes a game. He had 2 assists, 3 turnovers. Those 3 turnovers all came versus Clemson. But again, he's starting to feel a little bit better about himself out there on the floor. He's got 2 assists so far in running this offense. And, the young man has got a lot of talent. He's just unfortunately had to play behind some pretty good point guards during his stay here at Carolina. Coming off the bench oftentimes is not easy.
Here's the full court pressure off the inbounds. Corner goes to McCauley. Lawson is not in there right now for North Carolina. They have been looking at his ankle on the bench. McCauley goes into 3 defenders and lost the ball. Green is in for the first time. Thompson, the sophomore out of Torrance, California.
Not sure what defense State was in, and neither were they. Wide open coming down the lane was the trailer.
13-9. The crowd really into it now. McCauley wanting the ball down low. This is Grant, guarded by Green. Grant down the lane, and Stevenson was there to stuff it, and then he stepped on the end line. Good defense by the sophomore. Bobby Fraser, who had to undergo knee surgery, was the backup point guard. But more than that, a shutdown man-to-man defender, and they missed that more than his assists off the bench. But if Lawson has hurt his ankle, that means they're down to 1 guy, and it's Quentin Thomas, who only has 3 more assists than he does turnovers. Shot clock violation. McCauley had his back to the basket and nobody was warning him. Not that he shouldn't have known it himself.
When you look at the increased minutes that the three big men, and I say big because of their importance, not stature, Ty Lawson and Marcus Ginyard in particular in the backcourt. Ginyard playing a little bit of point guard as well. But if Thomas can continue to play on a consistent basis and play consistently, you know, that's going to allow Lawson a little more rest and keep him fresh.
Ellington, tip in. Stevenson. And 15-9. Now they're really getting on the boards, aren't they, Len?
And Mike, that last possession by NC State having the shot clock expire on them again comes down to inexperience. You know, Marcus Johnson, a sophomore, playing point right now. He's got to be able to get the ball back. Shot clock gets around 8. You've got to get the point guard the ball. He's got to create for himself or others.
Johnson is to transfer from Tennessee, spent 1 semester there. Good pass inside, but it couldn't be handled by Costner, the 4th NC State turnover. And you see a little bit of nerves right now by the Wolfpack. Things went very, very well in the opening 5 minutes. Been a little shaky since. Thomas, nice crossover, kicks it back to Green. Thompson. Not a guy who really wants to shoot that much. Green got caught up inside. Thompson missed, kept it alive, and a foul. Well, they're just working over the Wolfpack on the glass right now.
Yeah, after the initial stay by NC State under the boards trying to hold their own, Carolina just playing volleyball on the backboard.
Welcome back to the Dean Smith Center at North Carolina. Here was the tip drill that was going on for the guys in light blue.
They see it go up and they're trying to block out, but not a lot of NC State guys really leaving their feet. You know, everybody is kind of anchored to the floor. Costner tries to get up a little bit, but it's Carolina whose arms are up, ready to go after the ball. Once you make contact on the block out, you got to go get it.
Green misses the first free throw. Nearly a 90% free throw shooter. 1 out of 2, and it's 16-9. Well, certainly the scoring pace is favoring North Carolina State right now. Heels on a 7-0 run. Johnson, here comes the trap. Fells had it tipped away, but saved. Fells will try a 3. Rimmed out. Controlled by State. Nice move inside. The shot would not fall for Hickson. Got it back, double pump. Hickson had a couple of shots at it. Thomas back the other way. Green tried to bounce it inside. Kicked and will be out to North Carolina. 11:56 to go first half. The number 1 Heels by 7. Next week will definitely be a week of impact on the ESPN family of networks. A chance to see 9 of the top 12 teams in Premier Conference action. You'll have a chance to track and see 3 of the remaining unbeatens. That is an unreal slate of games.
Certainly is. And you look at Vanderbilt, probably one of the surprises of the year. They've got to go to Tennessee. Ole Miss undefeated went to Tennessee earlier in the week and wound up with a loss. And Vanderbilt, obviously, this is an ultimate test for them.
I don't know about you, but the Black Sox, if they were wearing loafers, they'd look like a bunch of old guys at the beach.
I don't know. That looks like a statement to me. And not a fashion statement either.
Well, that was my next question.
Now, it looks like these guys are coming out in black. Connotes toughness.
McCauley swinging the elbows and gets the crowd in it.
Carolina with 8 offensive rebounds. Been able to vault out to this lead by getting second and third chance opportunities.
Hickson takes it outside a little bit. This kid is something else. 6'9", 242. May only be here a year.
Well, he is definitely demonstrating that touch from 10, 12 feet, something that Tyler Hansbrough had to work on for a couple of years before he got it down.
That broke more than a 3-minute scoring drought. Turnaround jumper won't go. Green kept it alive. And the foul is going to be on Green, going after another rebound.
Well, you look at Brandon Costner sitting on the bench right now. He's the guy that last year had a tremendous year finish, All-ACC freshman team, third team all-conference. This year struggling, trying to understand whether he's a perimeter player or a post-up player. And today, not even a force, particularly on the backboards where State needs him the most.
They've ruled it was not a foul on Green. He touched the ball out of bounds. Hickson trying with a double team. Thomas kicks it out of bounds. Hickson going 1 against 5 right now. Lawson comes back in. Thomas gets a nice hand.
You hear a little bit of cue back there. People are starting to appreciate Quentin Thomas's effort.
Certainly played well in that spurt. Grant trying to back in on Green. State doing a really good job of isolating guys, but North Carolina's doing a better job of defending them. Ginyard on the run. Basket in the foul. Beautiful fast break.
Well, on the offensive end, NC State has to recognize that Carolina's weak side is just packing in that paint. They're almost daring the pass to go to the perimeter on that side because they will give that shot. We talked about the problems that State has had from the perimeter.
Ginyard. Biggest lead, 19-11 as we approach the 10-minute mark. North Carolina State's offense has been criticized because it is a lot like the NBA, very structured in this case, trying to isolate guys one-on-one. When it works, it's pretty. When it doesn't, it's pretty ugly.
And once again, McCauley goes in, 3 guys, 1 guy looking to take the charge, another coming across to block the shot, and the other guarding the first outlet pass.
McCauley from 19. Little too strong, and here comes Green. If Carolina can run, this game is over.
Well, just as in the first 5 minutes of this game, the pace favored State. Carolina has turned the switch, baby.
And the switch is directing all the energy into the light blue heels, 21-11.
Well, you got to make decisions when you're playing defense. And Danny Green looking one way and passing another. He's looking at us. But that look-off pass to Marcus Ginyard, very successful. And Carolina, again, able to switch the tempo, turn it to their favor. And it comes down to missed shots, block shots, turnovers, and getting out in transition.
The thing about defending the fast break is you have to defend it every single possession. Once you stop, they just blow you away.
Yeah, I mean, you actually have to defend it by not turning it over or taking a bad shot. You got to have the board covered. You got to make sure that you can get a tip, you can slow it down, and you got people back. But if you turn it over,
by playing 1-on-2 or 1-on-3 basketball, they've turned it over several possessions in a row.
Absolutely. You turn it over in the open floor, they're going to get down the floor quickly, Carolina.
Hickson, one of their few alternatives against Hansbrough, can't hit it. Green rips it down again. Lawson. Ankle seems to be fine. Green for 3. Gonzalez with a loose ball. Hickson quickly against Hansbrough, trying to get inside before the defense is set. Hickson and Hansbrough both go down. Now they bang into each other in the backcourt. Green, that should be an offensive foul, and it is. That's 1 on Green. Crowd didn't like it, but that looked like a good call. Big 12 college basketball on ESPN tonight at 9 Eastern. Brandon Rush and Kansas go against Nebraska. Saturday primetime presented by DirecTV tonight.
You get a chance to see the team that a lot of people think are better than Carolina, although Carolina ranked 1 in both polls. Kansas with tremendous offensive balance.
McCauley had his pocket picked and then commits the foul on the other end against Deion Thompson. The heels are just so quick.
Well, if you want to be #1 in the country, this is the chemistry formula. Power, speed, ability to knock down shots, and certainly have the depth to wear your opponent down. And we're seeing all of that and then some at work here this afternoon with Carolina.
Deon Thompson makes the first free throw. He has been the only weak link at the free throw line for this club, coming in shooting under 50%.
I think he's hit now 11 of his last 13, 12 of his last 14.
And that stroke looks good.
Nothing like a little bit of work. A whole lot of the time.
Never fails, does it?
Well, you'd be surprised how many of these young folks don't understand that that's what it takes to be proficient on the line.
I think they understand. They just don't want to do it. Grant. There's the isolation again. Grant may have gotten away with steps there. Gonzalez with a miss.
And there's the weak side. Carolina packing it in and allowing the pass when it goes, allowing the shot, knowing that State's having a lot of difficulty knocking anything down.
Ginyard, look at Thompson. He just went in there and kept that thing alive. Last touch by Hansbrough. This is the conference opener for North Carolina State, and they get it at North Carolina. The Heels undefeated 16-0. State has won 7 in a row against admittedly much weaker opposition than you would think.
Well, their last 3 wins.
At times with it.
Their last 3 wins, Western Carolina, Presbyterian, and North Carolina Central. They don't exactly prepare you to play North Carolina.
No, they don't. They only prepared them to play North Carolina Central. NC State, 2 points in 6.5 minutes. No matter how well you control the tempo, you can't score 2 points every 6.5 minutes. Shot clock at 2. Grant put it up, missed the rim, and that's a shot clock violation. It's been a tough 10-minute run here for Sidney Lowe after a good start.
Reese Davis with you in the studio. Auburn taking on Florida, and the Gators off to a little bit of a slow start. Quan Prowell missed the 3. Lucas Hargrove there with the stick back. Florida's hit just 1 of its first 10 from behind the arc, with the game now tied at 19. Now the game going on right now, Fordham and Xavier Musketeers up by 6.
7:41 to go in the first half, and North Carolina starting to dominate North Carolina State. Ellington had the ball knocked away. State with a rare break, and Ellington got a hand in and knocked it away. Back at the other end, Hansbrough. Turn your head and they're gone.
I mean, if it wasn't for bad luck right now, State would have no luck. They're getting point-blank shots in the paint. Good defense by Carolina. When you think you have a fast break, really good defense by Carolina.
Hickson misses inside, and a foul. The score was tied at 9. Now it's 25-11, and this would make the Bricklayers Union very proud. North Carolina State shooting 24%, North Carolina shooting 35%. But I tell you what, defense is part of this. Hickson to Johnson, and that's a backcourt violation.
When you compound the fact that you can't make layups, you can barely get good shots in a range where you can hit them, and now you add these kinds of mental errors. You know, Sidney Lowe may want to take that red jacket off and rethink the wardrobe.
Yeah.
That's supposed to bring you good luck.
Hey, you'd hesitate to think what it would be without some good luck. 25-11 right now. Lawson, little scoop. Lawson kept it alive. Hansbrough to Green.
Well, right now, State's not even guarding underneath. They're so concerned about surrounding Tyler Hansbrough, the guy with the ball. They're forgetting that there are 4 other guys out on the floor. I just think right now they're shell-shocked, and that sometimes happens. You get lost out here on this kind of floor with this kind of crowd.
8 boards for Hansbrough. Ellington on the run. No, but he's fouled.
Watch the nice move underneath by Ty Lawson. Hansbrough with the offensive rebound. Look at Costner just trying to force on McCauley, I should say, just using his body trying to force Hansbrough onto the sideline, but nobody else guarding anyone else.
Ellington deadly at the line. Now, NC State is a physical basketball team, and North Carolina really showing its chops today, because Clemson, the game they played down in South Carolina, Clemson out-physicaled them almost the entire game, I thought. But they are giving much better than they're getting today.
Well, sometimes home cooking serves you well. That's right. You feel comfortable. You got the crowd behind you. There's none of that subconscious intimidation. You're the aggressor when you're at home, usually.
Homemade gravy's good stuff. 29-11. We approach the 6-minute mark. North Carolina State has made a slick one of its last 16 shots. Costner against the double team.
And
you know, we talked earlier about man-to-man and zone. There are a lot of zone principles in man-to-man, and North Carolina is exhibiting them beautifully today, going with those double teams. They're just waiting for a guy to back in and be vulnerable, and then they attack him defensively. Green got the roll.
Well,
this is turning ugly.
Carolina's just crowding the paint. And you would think by now that the State players would understand that. Make quick moves to the baseline, turn and face and locate.
Fells for 3, rattles out. Horner with a rebound. Fells dumps it to McCauley. McCauley misses a point-blank shot. Nerves are jingling right now. Thompson, turnaround jumper. One of the few times it's been one and done.
And again, the shots that NC State's getting, they're in the paint. And they're just missing layups, even though they're being defended.
McCauley held on the way in.
The way they're playing, though, I don't even think Ingenatzer could help them, although last year he was the key to NC State's success. The ultimate floor leader.
Yes, he was.
We got a lot of guys involved, had that almost 2-to-1 assist turnover ratio, and was usually always on the floor.
Smart player who was in control. Thompson blocked it in Fell's face. Hard to imagine a team playing any better than this right now. Great pass from Green to Thompson. Green is one of those guys who doesn't get as much credit as I think he deserves. He seems to do everything right, particularly when he's got his head in the game defensively.
Well, he's establishing himself as one of the premier 6 men in college basketball. Look at this. He can't even catch the ball in the paint.
Fells took his eye off of it. Look at the speed of Lawson. Holy cow, he's a blur. Green passed on the 20-footer, goes inside and missed. Marcus Johnson back the other way. It was tied at 9, and it's 33-11. McCauley. Boy, just for the sake of mercy, you'd like to see one go in.
Yeah, I think that virus that bit the St. Louis Billikens against George Washington, only scoring 20 points in the whole game, may have traveled to Raleigh.
Hansbrough with a miss, but no problem. He was fouled. And go to the line when we come back.
I'm Reese Davis. Coming up on the UPS Halftime Report, we'll turn our attention to the centers of attention in the upcoming Georgetown-UConn game in just a little while. Top 5 showdown in the Pac-10. Kevin Love and UCLA against Washington State. We'll tell you what to watch for. Digger, Hubert, and Jay will join me. We'll see you in a bit.
Reese, thanks very much. It is 33-11, North Carolina. Here's a pregame ritual you got to explain to me, Len.
Well, first of all, during the game, Danny Green obviously playing as well as we've seen him play both getting other people involved and getting down the floor. I don't think anybody wants to be involved in that. Whatever it is. Fortunately, nobody jumped on him and sedated him before.
St. Vitus dance. 35-11. Here are the only two stats you need to know. North Carolina is shooting 72%, and North Carolina State shooting 17%, and North Carolina on a 25-2 run. Yikes.
And again, it's not because North Carolina's playing extraordinary defense. They're playing good defense. They're in position, making it difficult for NC State, but NC State has missed shots, some of them point-blank layups.
Yeah.
That they normally would make, even when they're not shooting well. Of course, Carolina trying to apply even greater pressure. Finish this half with a flourish.
Grant.
Look at this.
Even that won't go in. Somebody better dunk one.
Or not down
good
beyond
pass.
the arc.
Grant, no. We may be setting records in this one. Thomas. Well, when Thomas is going to score, it's over, isn't it? I mean, Quentin is not exactly an offensive machine coming off the bench.
Rarely looks for a shot. I think he can feel comfortable in this one.
Yeah. Foul away from the basket. Big Monday means college basketball on ESPN. It begins with the doubleheader at 7 Eastern. Big East basketball. Number 8 Georgetown against number 18 Pitt. Then at 9 Oklahoma against number 3 Kansas. Big Money presented by Bud Light on ESPN.
Speaking of bad luck, the blow dealt to Pittsburgh, the loss of Mike Cook and Levance Fields for an extended period of time. That was the team that was ready to roll and ready to try to assume dominance in the Big East. Look at Gonzalez having all sorts of trouble with Lawson.
Lawson all over, and Gonzalez bounces it off him, so it's not a backcourt violation. But they're at 15 seconds on the shot clock, and they're back beyond midcourt again. Look at this defense. The heels are like sharks that smell blood, and lots of it.
See, the thing that's baffling me, Mike, is that except for Gonzalez and Hickson, the other guys on the floor have faced Carolina. They've faced this kind of pressure. They should know what's coming. It just seems that they're not prepared to do anything with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm really surprised. I'm surprised that the veterans like McCauley and Costner are not able to step up, missing layups.
Ellington goes baseline, fouled by Courtney Fells.
And you look on the perimeter, I mean, this is Chaplin-esque almost. And it's not real time, but folks, it's pretty close. That's what it looks like. Even Courtney Fells, again, another guy who's faced this Carolina pressure before, just seems to be overwhelmed by it.
Nice job, Kim Belton. That was very informative. We jammed all those mistakes, physical and mental, into a sequence that you could watch. I like that. Much of this game, if you're a North Carolina State fan, has been unwatchable in any speed. It is 38-11. Don't mean to beat a dead horse, but it was tied at 9.
I don't know if you need to quite get the record books out. You know, alluded to St. Louis and their problems with George Washington. Actually, their problems with themselves, only scoring 20 points in a game. But, you know, we may be seeing something close to it right now if this keeps up.
Gonzalez kicks it out to Fells for 3. Barely nicked the rim on the way by. Look at this. Ginyard with a great touch pass. 41-11. Points in a row. Fells. Thank God.
they want a game. They want a blowout.
Well, it was a 2, not a 3.
But they don't want an absolute slaughter now.
Well, they've got one. Sidney Lowe really upset with his ball club. Lowest scoring first half this year, you would hope. Hickson, who was so hot early, now can't hit anything. Whatever the virus is, it's catching.
Yeah, I really believe that going forward, NC State's going to rethink that schedule. We talk about playing against Western Carolina Presbyterian and North Carolina Central.
Great point.
Before playing North Carolina.
Great point. Standing ovation for the Heels. And they earned it. Lawson. Ginyard, shot clock expired. A mistake? Hard to imagine.
Well, one field goal in the last 11 minutes and 33 seconds for State, and that's it, folks. That's your highlight for the first half for NC State in a nutshell. If he would have made that one, I would have taken his headset off. Go sat in the stands.
I'd have joined you. Oh, this was unbelievable, this whole first half.
Surreal.
The halftime score, believe it or not, 43-13. Let's join Reese Davis in the studio for the UPS halftime report.
I think that Mike and Lenny are underselling the fact that North Carolina State is putting together a very positive defensive effort. After all, North Carolina scored 90 points or more in 6 straight games. Right now, the Tar Heels not quite on that pace, only on pace for 86.
Wow.
Hey, leave it to me to look for a positive in what was just an abysmal first half of the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at NC State, you know, there's a couple reasons all year that they have struggled. One, they have point guard issues. I mean, they really miss Ingan Astor. Farnell Deegan, their starting point guard, the transfer from Iowa State, he's injured without the year. So they don't have an ability to break down defenses and get the ball down low. And then number 2 is offensively, this year they haven't found a way to play around J.J. Hickson. I mean, when you look at Brandon Costner, an all-ACC performer, averaged 16 points a game last year. Right now, he's only averaging 10 points a game because he's not getting the basketball. He only has 2 field goal attempts here in the first half, and that's a couple of the differences between NC State this year as opposed to last year.
And Hubert, what happens with that, when you try to shoot threes, you get no offensive rebounds, Carolina controls the board, and they just start running that fast break. This is why they had that 25-0 run and that half before halftime. But the fact is this, you've got to find an inside presence. You got to go to the basket. It's too late. This team, Carolina, is so strong that their pressure defense, they'll give you the threes, and if you're not making them, they're getting that defensive rebound, and they're just going up and down. 25-0 run, and that was just a little embarrassing.
A little embarrassing. I mean, you guys are all correct. Those are all valid points. But that was the most embarrassing first half I've seen all season long. I mean, what do you do if you're Sidney Lowe? Do you go and do you draw a play up? I mean, you got to go in and you got to draw a big heart there and say, do we have any? I mean, these guys are not relating to each other. Their body language is horrible. They look like a bunch of zombies whenever they get into a huddle. They didn't come prepared to fight. And when you go on the road, you have to come prepared to fight and fight together. And that is a team going in 5 different directions on the floor. And I have not seen a performance as embarrassing as that all year long.
A 30-point deficit for North Carolina State. Let's not try to fool you. Game's over. We're going to find out a little about North Carolina State to see if they have any of that heart you're talking about in the second half. Still to come on the UPS halftime report. Much more competitive battle we expect inside 2 of the premier centers in the Big East. UConn and Georgetown getting together. We'll tell you about the centers of attention in a bit.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by GMC. We are professional grade. And new Aleve liquid gels. The strength of Aleve meets the speed of a liquid gel. This is the UPS halftime report.
I think both teams will show up to fight and what to watch for in the UConn-Georgetown game. That's coming up just a little while this afternoon on ESPN, 2 o'clock Eastern time. UConn has struggled lately on the road, dating to last year, though they gave Notre Dame a run at the end on Saturday night. Georgetown, obviously very good at home, coming off a run to the Final Four last year. And this is a clash in the inside, a couple of the premier big men in the Big East. The much improved Hasheem Thabeet from UConn against Georgetown today. This is what he did against the Hoyas last year.
Yeah, not a great game last year, but he's a player that's evolving, and his game is really coming around. If Hasheem Thabeet makes the easy play, catch, finish, catch, go up strong, and get fouled, score, or both, he's going to be a much better offensive player. We already know he can block shots and he can rebound. He's got to stay out of foul trouble against a very solid front line in Georgetown.
On the other side of it, we got to look at Roy Hibbert. Yes, they do miss Jeff Green, but he is so mature inside. And what I like about him, he's very unselfish. He'll score, and yet he knows when he's double-teamed, he'll look for the open man and still be strong to go up and get second-chance points. And this is what makes him such an effective inside player, knowing his job description so well.
Well, I think that's why Roy Hibbert is so important to Georgetown. And, you know, over the last couple of weeks since that Memphis game, I've said that Roy Hibbert has to be more aggressive. And, you know, from that standpoint, I'm not saying that he has to be a 20-point, 12 rebound type of guy, but I think he's a difference maker. I think this is a guy that should want the ball down low. He can create double teams. And if he's more aggressive, I think it opens up everything for them, for Jonathan Wallace, Jesse Sapp. And I think he can make a difference for this team getting back to a Final Four.
And it's a great point, because working hard and calling for the ball and being a threat is not being selfish. Taking bad shots is being selfish, but being a threat to score is not. And I agree with Hubert. That's what Roy Hibbert needs to be.
In the Memphis game, they learned something, I think, Georgetown, because what Memphis did was try to go up and down the whole game and took Hibbert out of the game. He only had 6.6 rebounds. Since that time, I think John Thompson's adjusted to say, wait a second, guys, we got to get the big guy back on our offense.
Yeah, Hibbert had a double-double last time out. He'd had a string of 6 games in a row where he hadn't taken more than 6 shots. See how effective he is against UConn. Something else to watch for this afternoon. Arizona taking on Houston. Arizona getting Jared Bayless back.
Get Bayless back, but I think when you look at this game, it's going down to the inside battle between Aaron Baines, who had 18 points against Southern California.
Hey, Coach, I'll get you there.
Bad.
Arizona-Houston here.
My bad.
Well, it's all about Jared Bayless, really, because he plays 35 minutes a game. When he gets into the ball game, it helps their rotations. Without him, they're lost. With Jared Bayless, I think Arizona wins if he's 100% healthy.
And now who's back from Washington State against UCLA?
Yes, I'm anxious for this game because I think Aaron Baines, who had 18 points against Southern Cal, it's going to be the inside battle against Kevin Love, the tough freshman, who makes, I think, the inside game for UCLA that strong. Whoever wins an inside battle could be a key in this game when you see the Bruins and Ben Howland at home in Pauley against Washington State.
Well, at home, Danny Green getting it done for the Tar Heels. That was not the most interesting thing Danny Green did in the early part of the game, but the Tar Heels are up by 30.
This halftime report is delivered by UPS. What can Brown do for you? This halftime report is delivered by UPS. What can Brown do for you?
Auburn and Florida, Nick Calanthus, young Gator guard, trying to improve on that 14-2 record. Auburn went up 7-0. Dan Werner, you know, if you can bounce pass well, you can play at any level. Finds Adam Allen, ties the game at 17. What about young Mr. Calanthus, Hubert?
Yeah, he's my favorite freshman. I mean, this guy just can get it done. He's the one guy that's been able to knock it down from three-point range against the zone of Auburn Tigers.
That was the only knockdown because they were 1 for 10 shooting threes at that point, and that's why this game's been close.
John Lucas missed, Alex Tyus didn't, and the Gators up 33-29. Quan Prowell with 11 points for Lebo's team. They've just started the second half there. Xavier 13-3. 1-0 in the A-10 so far. Fordham giving them a fight. The day going much better for Derek Whittenburg than it is for Sidney Lowe at the moment, I guess, the old teammate.
Well, that's because he got a hot player in Brian Dunstan, averaging over 21 points per game over his last 4.
You guys often say the team set their own standard of excellence regardless of the opponent. See how excellent Carolina can be in the second half.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Nissan, who invites you to shift the way you move through the world. And T. Rowe Price, providing investment management excellence for over 70 years. Invest with confidence.
Man, I came here for one thing, to do what I do. No business.
Welcome back to the Dean Smith Center. North Carolina 43. What do you say? 43-13 over North Carolina State. Welcome back, everybody. It's one of the most bizarre first halves I ever saw. I mean, 43-13. Are you kidding?
Well, I'll tell you, North Carolina State shooting 17%. 17% from the field. But they've gotten 21 shots in the paint. Carolina's got 25. They're 14 of 25. State 3 of 21 in shots in the paint. Missing layups. I guess it's an infection there. Some kind of problem.
Well, it's killing the patient. It was 9-9. Now it's 43-13.
Oh, there's one. But
yeah, there's one.
If I'm Sidney Lowe at halftime, the only thing you do is take that stat sheet, ball it up, throw it away, and say, okay, guys, let's go out and scrimmage. Because they'd probably have better luck playing as though they were playing a pickup game than what they did in the first half.
Lawson dared to shoot, so he does and knocks it down. North Carolina State in the first half missed 18 shots in a row. It is now 48-15.
And Javier Gonzalez, the freshman point guard for NC State, is just totally over his head, overmatched.
Hickson, that's the way the game started. He drew a foul on Hansbrough. North Carolina State was right there for the first few minutes, and then the collapse.
Let's take a look right here. Saying, okay, take it. And look, he's about 8 feet, 5 feet, 8 feet beyond the three-point line.
Lawson is not a good long-range shooter, only 12 out of 36%. But when you are left totally alone and dared to shoot, most guys can make it. But that's...
And you have a 33-point lead.
Yeah. And that's a pretty good idea to back off Lawson because he will kill you with penetration.
And I've talked about Gonzalez just having all sorts of trouble in the half court. He's been replaced by Marcus Johnson. Not that Gonzalez is the sole root of the problem.
No. He had a lot of help. Hickson knocks down the free throw. This kind of beating is the kind of game that's going to have repercussions far beyond this game, isn't it?
Well, Carolina hopes so. That's why Roy Williams wants his guys put forth maximum effort here in the second half, try to build this lead even greater, because psychologically, yes. Remember, when Carolina went to Raleigh last year, NC State snuck up on them and came up with a win. No replays is what Roy Williams is thinking.
The heels a little sloppy at the start of this half. Foul's going to be on Costner. That's his third. McCauley will come back in the ball game. Costner will go out because of that third personal foul.
Well, I mentioned in the first half, I think Brandon Costner, everybody expected more out of him than 11 points and 6 rebounds per game. I think his biggest problem is understanding what type of player he is. There are times when he can be lights out from beyond the arc. Other times he can be dominant inside. But there are too many games where he seems confused as to what his role on this team is, where he should be playing. He's got to be a basketball player.
Lawson with the steal, Fells in a futile chase. Isn't one of his other problems that Hickson is now the focus of the offense? Hickson gets 17.5 points a game, almost 8 rebounds a game. Those numbers got to come from somebody.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. If you're a player, you understand it's all about sharing the ball. And when your time comes, you got to produce. You can't sit around and think about, well, I'm not getting as many shots as I got last year. And there are ways to find more shots in places where you're going to be successful. Costner's a versatile guy.
Hansbrough, double team, forced it up.
It's one of the few times State has actually double-teamed Tyler Hansbrough. Yes. They were more content in the first half of just playing him man-to-man.
McCauley can't hit, and the rebound goes to Stevenson. Lawson now with 10 points in the ball game. And all in the second half.
You look at the double right there, and they're just leaving guys on the weak side just wide open. Look at this.
Finally, a pass to that side. Fells with a three.
Now, that was happening all first half, except for the make shot.
It's just hard to imagine that they were not making that pass at all in the first half.
Well, they were making it, and the guys were getting the looks. They just couldn't knock them down.
Green. But I would say 3/4 of the time, Len, when they had a player backing in, he was not looking to pass. No matter if it was a double team or a triple team coming, he was looking to shoot the basketball, and they weren't making any of it.
Well, they were backing guys down. They couldn't see the times when that occurred, as you just described. And you take a look again, the weak side pass. When they did make it in the first half, Carolina just stepped back and said, okay, go ahead and make it. But when you're backing guys down and you got 2 guys, 3 guys in the paint, you can't see the weak side.
They only shot 30% from long range coming in, did North Carolina State. I think this second half is going to be as much for the coaches as anything else, because the result is not going to change in this ball game. Coming up, coaching in the Tar Heel State. Len tells you who's the best ever. This game is available on ESPN HD and stunning ESPN. Let me read that again. It's a commercial element, and I'd like to get it right. This game is available on ESPN and stunning ESPN HD, presented by Olivia. Len Elmore's all-time State of Carolina coaches. These are fun because they're always open to further discussion. Go ahead.
Well, again, I mean, for those who think Vic Bubas, Everett Case, Norm Sloan should be up there, they probably should if we had enough room. And I put Coach Drizel up there simply because, one, he was my coach. And I'm talking about impact. And those guys not only won games, certainly they had tremendous impact on the game itself. And Roy Williams, I think, after a couple of more years, since this is the first time he's been a head coach in the state of North Carolina, would be right there among the top.
Fastest to 500 wins of anybody already in the Hall of Fame. National championship here at North Carolina. You'd have to say the resume is complete.
And if you think you have arguments with that, wait till a few more moments going forward here. I'm going to have the guys I think are the top college players in the state of North Carolina history.
McCauley draws a foul. That's going to be on Deion Thompson. You know, right off the top of my head, when the coaching list came up, I've got to think of Everett Case and Vic Bubas, you know, going back to the old days.
Yeah, and you know what? They came to the top of mine as well, but when I started to put this list together in my mind, you know, I'm talking about the history of the game, the impact that they have on the game itself, on changing the game. I mean, John McClendon learning under Dr. Naismith and bringing a brand of basketball here, even though in a segregated sense, both he and Coach Gaines had to work under those pressures. Dean Smith, a guy who broke barriers.
Yes, he did.
In a positive way. You know, we talk about Bones McKinney, who probably brought as much humor to the game. And I think Coach Drizel as well is one of those guys that broke barriers at Davidson, bringing Mike Malloy down.
Yep. Ellington with a runner. Well, even when they missed, they looked good off his hand. Corner wide open. Got it. Corner just made his third three-point shot of the entire year. Hansbrough answers. Hansbrough with 11. First couple of minutes of this ball game, North Carolina State held its own and then some on the boards, and then the heels got tough. They played great on the glass. Green came over the top with a big swat. Horner kicks it outside. Johnson moves it. Shot clock is down to 10. Horner's going to penetrate on this one, and a block.
And Mike, you called it. I mean, Carolina's defense got tough, but it was like the perfect storm. Convergence of that tough defense and NC State's inability to even make a layup.
Well, they obviously got in the Wolfpack's head, because some of those shots they may never miss again.
Yeah, it becomes contagious. But you need somebody that's going to be able to step up, and regardless of the obstacle during a drought like that, to be able to make some rain. Just a few drops at least.
at least a cloud. Didn't even get that. McCauley, bad pass, but at least he was trying to make the pass. And McCauley's had his head up the entire time that he's been in the game. 12 turnovers for NC State. Ginyard. Horner comes up with a loose ball. That's 7 turnovers for the Heels. Boy, Hickson working hard inside. He wanted the ball. Now he has it. There's the double team. Corner is open, and he traveled. And Sidney Lowe is beside himself right now. Turnovers 13-7. Here's our Sonic rivalry recap. The largest margin of victory in the series, 62-10. In the first half, North Carolina State missed 18 straight shots. Yikes.
And again, it's all about developing a toughness and developing the ability to fight adversity. And when you play such a soft schedule leading up to a game like this, you know, you're not developing anything unless it's a false sense of security.
All right, let me play devil's advocate here. They had good wins against Villanova and Davidson. Those are good ball clubs.
Yeah, early. But again, losses to New Orleans. East Carolina, I wouldn't say that's exactly a bad loss, but East Carolina probably shouldn't be beating NC State. So look at the nice baseline drive by Ginyard. And then the last 3 wins, again, Western Carolina, Presbyterian, and North Carolina Central. You don't prepare for an ACC schedule by playing those 3 teams.
And having them lumped together made it worse, right?
Exactly.
Brandon Costner, exactly the stage of placing him in college.
Check this out. Is that Thompson? No, it's Green.
It's Ginyard.
Ginyard. He went down and stayed down.
He's trying to gather his wits. Take a look. The knee kind of buckles under him. Shades of Bobby Fraser.
The junior from Alexandria, Virginia, able to get up and walk off under his own power.
Always scary when you see this happen.
Yeah.
And again, Bobby Fraser against, I believe it was against Kent State, watched him in that game. And no one around him, the same thing happened. His knee buckles. And I'm sure his experience probably shot through his mind when he saw that.
Sure.
And Roy Williams is kind of between a rock and a hard place. You want your guys to get their workout in a game like this. You certainly want to send that message. But you also want to realize you don't want to leave guys in the game too long. In a situation like this, you can harken back to Tyler Hansbrough in the blowout Carolina beating Rutgers, and you leave him in too long. He winds up banging his head against the camera, getting a concussion in a blowout situation. So it's a delicate time right now for the coach.
Hansbrough fouled from behind. This will take you back with Hansbrough against Rutgers.
And that was a blowout. That was about a 30-point game as well. And I'm sure Roy Williams, if he had to do all over again, his big guy wouldn't have been in the game at that point in time. Very few minutes left in that ball game.
The thing is, if everything goes well, you know, nothing is said because everything was fine, but somebody gets hurt, and then the second guessers will come out of the woodwork. And it's an almost impossible situation. Like you said, you want the guys to get their work in. They're working on specific things at times, like in this game right now. But you don't want to see anybody get hurt, and that's a slippery slope.
Yep.
Grant hits one from outside, 63-32.
Ginyard retaping his ankle, so it must have been his ankle that kind of turned. But that
Very
leg did buckle. That's right.
This is Johnson, the transfer from Tennessee, who is their third point guard. Gonzalez is the guy who's getting the starts now that Farnold began. The sophomore out of Boston, the transfer from Iowa State, went down. Had an ACL in December, done for the year. Timeout on the court coming up. Len takes a look at the top players who played their basketball here in the state of North Carolina.
Few have the size to match up with Georgetown star Roy Hibbert. That is not a problem for Hashim Thabit. Nearly 4 blocks per game, leading the Big East. UConn, Georgetown, coming up next.
Back in North Carolina, the sold-out Dean Smith Center, where it is 63-32. If you joined us late, North Carolina State went 13-29 in the first half without scoring a point. They missed 18 shots in a row, and during that drought, North Carolina went on a 25-0 spurt ball game. Hickson off to Costner on the weave. This is Fells out of the corner, and Courtney Fells hits the three-pointer. Fells with a dozen. He was shooting only 30% coming in.
And Mike, maybe because the outcome is almost a foregone conclusion, State seems so much more relaxed here in the second half. Shooting the ball well, handling it well.
Well, it's not all that hard to shoot when you're down by 30, is it? Very little pressure. You've never been down by 30.
Not in college. Never experienced that.
Well, trust me, it's a lot easier to shoot when you're down by 30. It's an air ball. Green back the other way, trying to take it all the way in by himself.
And I looked over at Roy Williams when Danny Green went from end line to end line, and he kind of bit his tongue and looked down at the floor. Not the kind of basketball he wants to play. He doesn't need the guys padding numbers right now.
No.
He wants them to continue to work on playing as a team.
66-37 as we approach the 10-minute mark. Hansbrough trying to show you a little range. Rebound to Hickson. Here they are on the run. A rare fast break, and Fells with the jam. The junior from Shannon, Mississippi. They would like to see him be more aggressive offensively. Now I'm talking about fast breaks. Hansbrough tried to go to the left-hand, had it blocked. Green comes out with it. Nice pass.
And did you like the way that Ellington knew exactly where he was? He took a giant step backwards to get behind that three-point line.
Ellington is almost 44% from long range, and he looks better than that. It is 69-39. Back at the Dean Smith Center with all the all-star jerseys hanging up there. Here's Lenny's all-time State of Carolina team.
Yeah, and I don't want any phone calls or emails. Michael Jordan's name is not on there, but you know, in my mind, had he stayed his senior year, he would have sealed the deal. We know he's among the greatest basketball players ever, but these are guys who played in college in this state. David Thompson, who I consider one of the 3 best college basketball players ever. Art Heyman doesn't get enough credit for what he does and what he did. Certainly Tim Duncan, Mr. Fundamentals. Earl Monroe, another guy who kind of revolutionized the game. And Phil Ford, what can you say? I mean, he sits atop as scoring leader here at North Carolina, been doing that for a long time since no one's gotten close.
I will not choose to argue over your list. I will just tell a story that I have told before. When we were asked to pick one of the ACC all-time player teams, the top 50 players, the first ballot, I narrowed mine to 125, and I looked at it and I said, I can't cut this anymore. I'm not taking these guys off that list. They all deserve to be on the top 50, even though there were 125 of them.
Well, a lot of it has to do also with my personal belief in how the game should be played. So a lot of that has to do with my view of what a complete basketball player is. And, you know, Michael Jordan, as I said, one of the greatest ever to play the game.
Sure.
But as far as a college player, probably could have sealed the deal if he had stayed all 4 years, in my mind.
Well, also, that was the system under Dean, where people were not going to be individual stars.
I mean, I could have gotten guys, either Christian Laettner, you had Robert McAdoo, Grant Hill. I mean, there are a ton of guys that unfortunately left off of that list. But
Shane Battier.
And were complete players.
As a college player, was there ever a more complete player?
And that was my 5, and I'm sticking to it.
Nice shot by Deion Thompson. This is tough as a player. It's not just hard on announcers. This is tough as a player to play in a game like this. If you're North Carolina, trying to keep up your intensity. And if you're North Carolina State, just trying to care at all.
Well, if you're Carolina, I mean, Roy Williams has to devise little games. I mean, this is not the first blowout. It's not their first rodeo.
No.
But so you got to be able to keep a guy's head in the game. And I'm sure they have, and they've been grading guys, and they've been doing that back to Dean Smith's days. And you grade guys on their performance on the floor. That has a lot to do with your playing time. So that's the incentive.
And that's about the only one you have, because these guys are pretty bright. They understand this game ended a long time ago. Big 12 college basketball on ESPN tonight at 9 Eastern. Brandon Rush and number 3 Kansas against Nebraska. Saturday primetime presented by Direct TV tonight. Danny Green back in the ball game, and what an afternoon he has had as Grant's at the free throw line. Green, 9 points, 11 boards, 6 assists, and 4 blocked shots. Well, he just got a double-double.
And he got it within the system.
Yep. Now, the second half, we're seeing more movement, more passing by North Carolina State. Is that because their adjustments or maybe lack of intensity by North Carolina on defense? I
think it's part their adjustment. Instead of trying to throw the diagonal pass on the low post, allowing Carolina to pick it off, they're going one pass away and then swinging around.
7:56 left, still a 30-point game.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Alltel Wireless. Get My Circle exclusively from Alltel. And in part by Sonic. It's not just good, it's Sonic good.
Welcome back to Chapel Hill. We're at 73-43. We talked about the adjustments that North Carolina State has made in the second half, Lynn. My question would be, why didn't they make those adjustments in the first half?
Well, it's darned if I know. No, seriously, the bottom line is, instead of trying to make the diagonal pass, thinking that they're going to get that through, it's almost a skip pass. They're making that pass when the guy's in the low post. The guy comes to the elbow, they hit him, then they swing the ball around and force Carolina to shift. Now, Carolina's not doubling in the paint, so that's also helped a little bit as Hickson's getting some one-on-one opportunities down low.
That was the magic of the red jacket last year for Sidney Lowe, trying to wake up the echoes of what Jim Valvano had once done. It was extremely successful. This is the first time he's worn it this year. It may go back in the closet for a while. No magic in it today as Coster hits the free throw. And there were is that the first point for Coster? Holy cow.
Well, I would say this, if I'm Sidney Lowe, I take that and I try to play a little Charles Dickens. This was the best of times, and now it's the worst of times.
His big red jacket inspired a couple of college students to start a company this year with hard-to-find colors in sport jackets, which begs the question, They were hard to find for a reason. I mean, if you want a lime green sport coat, you ought to have to look for a long time to locate one, shouldn't you?
And warn folks when you're ready to wear it.
You can have all the superstitions you want if the other team just eats you alive, which is what North Carolina did in the first half. Takes care of suspicions.
And again, floors, better spacing for North Carolina State, a whole lot of adjustments. Not that it would have helped, simply because, again, first half, State did get 21 shots in the paint.
Yeah.
And they were missing open layups. They were, as you mentioned, they were missing shots that they probably won't miss again.
Stevenson with the basket. The lead has grown to 31. By the way, I thought this was a pretty well officiated game for Brian Kersey, Bernard Clinton, and Pat Driscoll. It was not an easy game to do. It was very physical early. They let him play, and I thought it was very fair. Missed by Hickson.
Hickson's almost surprised when he gets in the paint that he's meeting with another white shirt.
Thomas with a runner. Well, he's a fan favorite, isn't he?
Well, Q is getting louder and louder. Unfortunately, in the past for Quentin Thomas, those Qs were boos.
Thomas kicks it to Lawson. North Carolina State on that last possession went back to one guy trying to beat three defenders. And that doesn't work. Ginyard.
Well, this crowd,
they're getting greedy, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. You know, there's a local fried chicken chain, and when Carolina gets to 100, they give them free biscuits. Now, I was here a couple weeks ago. I thought they were saying fish sticks, but I got set right.
Well, sometimes you can't tell what they're chanting,
right?
But who wants free fish sticks?
Some people
at any price, who wants fish sticks?
Some people want anything free. Come on.
You don't get a lime green jacket with? Oh,
free?
Good Lord, look at that.
You don't think if you gave him something free, he would?
Oh, well, obviously somebody gave him a 1965 tuxedo and he's wearing it. He may not have been married in that, but he could have been divorced in that outfit. 80-48. This qualifies as a good old-fashioned country butt kicking.
Yeah, I think State's been out to the shed and back. You can hear Sidney Lowe coaching still. They're playing 2-3 zone right now. Something that they didn't do a whole lot of early in the season.
Thomas, great penetration. Got the bounce pass to Deion Thompson. 4 assists for Thomas. Got to be happy for him.
Yeah, this is going to really bode well for Carolina going forward in this tough conference schedule. To have Quentin Thomas playing with confidence, because you can see he's got talent, and I think his problems with turnovers and such over the years have a lot to do with a lack of confidence out on the floor. You make a mistake and it gets compounded.
Yep.
And then you start playing tentatively, and ultimately you make more mistakes. But right now, he's flowing free.
Once you start down that hill, it's pretty tough to put the brakes on and go back up. But games like this will give him that boost. Lowest scoring half of the season. They missed 18 straight field goals and 1 field goal in the last 11:33. Hansbrough.
Yeah, we were just alluding to, or actually more than alluding to, explaining the difficulty Roy Williams has in substitutions and such. And at the pace that this team plays, you want to continue to use guys in and out. But I think it's about time now to get your key guys out of the game. I mean, you just don't want to run the risk of anything happening you'll be sorry for later on from an injury standpoint.
Well, I've got to agree with him. I mean, you go back to the point where there's like 9 minutes to go in the game, and I think any coach is hesitant to take his starters out, even with a 30-point lead, because you don't want to have to bring them back in if something happens.
Yeah, but with your team at some point, right, 9 minutes, that's something you start thinking about.
Yeah.
But you look at Tyler Hansbrough, beginning as a freshman, he out-muscled everybody, and his sophomore year, people started to hit back. And now he's developed a game where he's been able to step out, play people out on the floor. You know, that is the progression of potential player of the year over the years.
He is just a tremendous performer. Ellington slashing in.
But it's that very thing that makes him as good a player as he is, that tenacity, that willingness to bang, and willingness to hit the floor. That's a great reason why you got to yank him right now.
Yeah, and McCauley called for a hook. McCauley, a very physical player. Hansbrough goes down. Coming up, Lenny Elmore goes retro on today's players. Stay tuned for that one.
Not far from the hallowed steps of the capital, Georgetown and UConn are set to renew Big East acquaintances. 2 7-footers, Connecticut's Hasheem Thabeet and La Jolla's Roy Hibbert, will fill the lanes today in the renewal of a long-standing rivalry. Join us from Washington next. Now, let's go back to Mike Packer.
Thank you, sir. We'll be watching your ball game with great interest.
Battle of the big men. One already seems to be at the mountaintop in Roy Hibbert, and Hasheem Thabeet. You talk about a game changer. Saw him against Notre Dame just literally intimidate their front line, Notre Dame's front line with the blocks.
Just love those matchups like that. 3:25 to go in the ball game. It has been all North Carolina since it was tied early in the first half at 9-9. State was really playing well, being very physical with the heels. Shot clock at 1, and Lawson has to fire from long range. Well, mentioning the shot clock in North Carolina in the same breath is a rarity.
Well, 3 minutes left. Starter's still on the floor, and you know, I don't know the message Roy is sending, if he's sending one at all.
Ooh, pretty play by McCauley.
Trying to get his guys a workout, but I think they've probably played enough right now.
Well, NC State would agree. They don't want to see any more of these guys.
Well, they're going to be asking for a rematch, and they're going to get it February 20th in Raleigh. And you look at this list, old school play. It shows you how much time I have on my hands making lists. But when I say old school, I'm talking about guys who aren't going to wow you with, you know, the between the leg dribbles and behind the back, and, you know, the change of motion and everything in the air, anything fancy. These are guys that play the game the way it's supposed to be played, fundamentally. Allow the game to come to them, use screens well, you know, square up to the basket, pull up mid-range games.
Yeah.
And Wayne Ellington, if you watch his game, he's among the best. Just understands how to use picks.
Got that silky smooth stroke.
And even the big guy, I'm talking about Michael Beasley from Kansas State. You know, he's a guy, again, that lets the game come to him, takes what the defenses give him. And apparently they're giving him an awful lot. He's been averaging close to 30 points a game throughout the season.
He may be getting a little more than they're giving him. Under 2 minutes to go, mercifully. Fells, who's had a big second half with that miss, long rebound to Green. 13 boards for Green. Thompson with a miss, but the tip is good. And Green gets the bucket on the tip. 88-57. Here come the subs, but we've already hit 125. Turnover. The lob. Too high even for the leaper Green, but he bounces it off of Warner. And Roy Williams calls off the Dogs at 1:14 on the clock. Standing O from the sellout crowd. And they had this one coming. It was as good a first half of a performance as I've seen in a long, long time.
Like I said, a perfect storm. It was as good on Carolina's part and as bad, not only on State's part, but on the part of any Division I team.
Tanner comes off the bench, fire. Hello, J.B. Tanner out of Hendersonville, North Carolina.
Well, after the Clemson game, I think that Roy Williams looking to build confidence in his guys, but also send a message to the rest of the conference that might have been a bit of an off night where we weren't as tough. Even though Clemson is a terrific team, we weren't as tough as we need to be. We didn't play our game the way we wanted to play. It's almost like before the days of the BCS. You know, you run up the score to probably send a message nationwide. And I think when people are comparing Carolina to Kansas, Carolina to Memphis, that this is also a statement as well.
Well, I got to hand it to Clemson. Team. They were great that night.
Oh, yeah. And Danny Green came to play, creating for others, creating for himself, even playing a little bit of defense.
I mean, he was getting outrageously close to a triple-double.
And with that dance, he was getting outrageously close to being harnessed and taken away. Movement with the white coats.
Another turnover, Little, the football player with a miss, but there's the foul. 93-59. And a foul with 6.6 on the clock. Nearly the triple-double. 13-13 for points and rebounds. 6 assists, 4 blocks. Nice.
That's a nice line in anybody's book.
Hey, you can make all conference out of that, can't you?
I suspect so. I mean, especially coming off the bench.
McCauley. This guy's minutes have been cut way down this year. I think this kid's a player.
Well, he's smart. He understands the game. I mean, not be supremely gifted physically, but what he has, he makes great use of.
Nice follow there by Simon Harris. Dad Larry, an assistant coach. And that's it. The drama was removed from this game early. Tied at 9, and then North Carolina just blew them away. They win their 17th straight game to start the season. They remain #1 in the country, 93-62 from Chapel Hill. Don't forget our post-game extra on ESPN News. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Len Elmore and our entire ESPN crew, this is Mike Patrick. Thanks for watching. Let's go back to Reese Davis.
Well, after Danny Green's performance on the court, everybody's going to try to dance like that. Now,
if you like that dance, a little Michael Jackson, maybe, you know.
Why don't you try to do it right now?
No. You've seen me dance. Just give me Funky White Boy and I'll show you how to dance.
I took us down the wrong path. Jay Billis. Sometimes a point guard, and that's me, makes a bad decision. A lot of bad decisions to go around early for North Carolina State, but what can North Carolina, Hubert, get out of a game like this?
Well, I think they played great defensively, and this is a team throughout the year has really struggled in terms of guarding dribble penetration. And this week in practice, Coach Williams actually took the rims off the practice rim and said, look, we're just going to play defense for 2.5 hours. He has to be happy with his defensive effort, but, you know, NC State is not this bad.
Yeah, but when you take the rims off, your defense automatically gets better. They can't score, period.
They should make a bigger basket.
Little did they know they didn't replace North Carolina State's rim in the first half, apparently.
But what really impresses me about Carolina, they have so much confidence. Now that Lawson's back, when he was hurt, they miss him. And when you look at how he makes things happen, Danny Green comes off the bench, gets 13-13, 6 assists. Their defense is so explosive. I'm just impressed. And it's no even a Hansborough factor. And when you look at Hansborough, you say, well, he's going to dominate. No, there's so many good players. Ellington gets it done against Clemson. Green comes off the bench, gets a double-double. But, you know, when you look at this Carolina team, and we saw this happen when Roy Williams had Sean May, those guys, for 2 years, they got to a national title. He's got the same opportunity now with Hansbrough on this team.
Yeah, I think he does, but I think he's got to get consistent production out of Deion Thompson and Alex Stevenson at the 4 spot. I think it's important for that team to get into its transition game. When everybody talks about a team playing fast and up-tempo and pushing the tempo, you don't do that by taking quick shots. You do that on the defensive end, and Hubert's right. This team is much better defensively. That's what they got out of it. They imposed their will defensively in the first half, but there's no way that any team in America is going to hold a good team to 13 points with their defense alone. NC State helped them. I mean, NC State was a huge problem for themselves. That there is something going on with that team, and I don't know what it is. I'm not Dr. Phil here, but they don't get along with each other, and that was not a team that trusted each other, that valued each other. They didn't come together when things got tough. They went in different directions, and that's the first thing that they've got to address is how that team relates to each other.
And they start that half shooting the first half. They're 1 for 21. I mean, shooting 17%, and that's why they're stuck on 11 most of the half. It's their shot selection. They don't get second chance.
Well, that turned the game into a blowout. Look, I'm the first guy off the bus saying that you can only coach one team. You only worry about your own team. But what's the protocol for yanking your starters when you have somebody blown out?
For Roy Williams?
Yeah, for Roy Williams.
My thing is, especially with a 3-point line now, and Sean McDonough would call this the Billis insurmountability scale. I say that you don't have to take your starters out as long as the other team's got theirs on the floor. If I'm up 30 or 40, whatever it is, 20, and you want to take all your starters out and wave the white flag, then I'll take mine out. But you have no complaint as long as you keep your starters on the floor and you're still playing. You have no complaint that I'm keeping mine on the floor.
I think that's a feel for the game too. I mean, coaching, you look at what your players need as far as key guys playing in key positions. You want to still keep your team sharp, and you just can't take a team out. We've seen that happen in NFL playoffs when a team gets there, they want to coast, and not because they got a bye week. No, you still go with your best players, but I think the coach makes that decision on when or not to take those starters out.
We saw it in Providence, Boston College earlier in the year. Providence was drilling Boston College. I mean, they were up 20, 25, 30 points in the second half, and Boston College came back, took that game to overtime, and should have won that thing. And when you take you got to be careful when you take your foot off the gas in college basketball, especially with teams so young.
All right, we got a game coming up just after the top of the hour. UConn and Georgetown, and this just into us right now.